I always find it so funny when people try to defend Charlie by saying that she's just behaving like the classic Disney princess. Like, bro, what the hell kind of Disney princess did y'all grow up with? And the thing that makes this argument even weirder is that we have Emily right there, a character who embodies all of the Disney princess characteristics that people like to pretend Charlie has. So much so that I genuinely think that the show would have been better if Emily and Charlie had swapped roles. And that's because fundamentally, these two have very different motivations.
This hotel was my way of finishing what she started.
When the show first started, and I mean all the way back in the pilot, it seemed as if Charlie created the hotel as a way to help sinners. She was disgusted by the exterminations that would occur year after year, and she couldn't just sit by and watch this happen. So she decided to look for a more humane way of dealing with overpopulation in hell, which is where the idea of redemption came in. If the souls in hell could be redeemed and go to heaven, then the exterminations aren't necessary and nobody has to die. And even when the series started, it still seemed as if the hotel was built for the sinners. Because in the very first episode, we learned that she, as a hellborn, isn't affected by the exterminations. The angels aren't allowed to target her. So up until this point, the hotel seemed like a completely altruistic endeavor. She wasn't doing it for herself. She was doing it completely for the citizens of hell. However, over time, Charlie's motivation started to become a little bit muddy. The show started bringing Charlie's mother into the conversation. And at first, it was fine. Like, Lucifer's over there being miserable and hating sinners, so naturally we do kind of wonder, where does Charlie get this compassion for sinners? And that's where Lilith came in. She also empowered the sinners and inspired them to rise up against heaven. But then, the story shifted from Charlie is doing this in order to save the sinners and her mom was her inspiration, to Charlie is doing it purely just to impress her mom and have her mom come back. Essentially, not only does Charlie have daddy issues, but she's got mommy issues now too.
Alright.
And I just want to say, there's nothing inherently wrong with Charlie doing this to impress her mom. Like, I don't hate it on principle. In fact, I can kind of see where the story could go from there. For example, maybe Charlie starts off originally just doing it to impress her mom. But then she meets her mom and she's disgusted by the way that her mom, like, I don't know, man, she sold out the sinners to go to heaven, or back when they were protesting, they actually bombed some cars in heaven or something. I don't know. But Charlie's disappointed by her mom. And then her whole philosophy is thrown into question. So now she's wondering, should I still try to save the sinners? She's in a dark pit. But at this point, Charlie has helped like 50 people, and she's motivated by hearing the stories of how she's helped save their souls. So she goes back to trying to help the sinners, but this time it's completely altruistic. Like, I can see where that story would go, and it would be quite interesting. However, can we please then not pretend that her motivations currently aren't inherently selfish? Charlie didn't push Angel to open up about his sin because she wanted to do what's best for him. She did because she desperately needs the hotel to work. She desperately wants to save the sinners and feel as if she's worth something so her mom can come back. Trying to frame Charlie as a good person trying to do what's right doesn't work when her motivations are inherently selfish and she keeps on hurting the people that she claims she wants to help. It also just makes the character difficult to root for because you know that she's doing all of this for herself, but the story keeps trying to frame it as if she's doing it for the sinners, while explicitly telling us that's not why she's doing it. All of this just makes Charlie a lot less enjoyable as a protagonist. And it's a big part of why I say that Charlie should have had Emily's personality. With Emily, her motivations are completely altruistic. It's not born out of some trauma or some deep desire to impress anyone. She's just doing what she feels is right. One thing I didn't even notice the first time I watched the show, but I'm glad I noticed upon rewatch, is that the point where Emily gets invested in helping sinners isn't when she hears about the exterminations. It's before that, when it's brought into question why Angel Dust hasn't been redeemed. Emily looked at him and saw a soul that is trying to improve, a soul that has improved, but is still suffering in hell, instead of joining them in heaven. The thing that bothered her is the idea that a good person like Angel Dust is going to be forced to suffer for all of eternity, even though they're not the same person that they were when they first went to help. The reason she got invested is that idea of what's right and what's wrong, who deserves to be punished and who doesn't. When she finds out about the exterminations, she's disgusted. But the exterminations aren't the reason she spoke up in court. The exterminations aren't the reason that she wants to help the sinners. She just purely wants what's best for people and wants them to be happy. Her motivations are completely altruistic, in the same way that we once thought Charlie's motivations were at the beginning of the series. And you can clearly see this difference in motivation in the way that these two treat the people around them. And I don't just mean in those huge moments when it's about sinners against heaven or about talking to all of the sinners about Vox. I mean in those smaller moments, when it's not us versus them, but it's just a normal conversation between two people. I love them! Kind, compassionate, altruistic characters tend to have that as their default. They'll maybe have one huge thing that they really care about, like they want to save the world or something, but they'll also treat the people around them with the same level of compassion and empathy. The first person that comes to mind is Rapunzel from Tangled. In the film, we get to see Rapunzel's kindness and empathy from beginning to end, be it in the way that she treats Pascal, Maximus, Flynn, or a bar full of thugs. She treats them all with kindness, and by the end of the film, we see that she treats the citizens of Corona the same way as well. But then also, and this is a bit of a spoiler for those of you who haven't watched the series, but in season 1, I think, a magical stone hits the kingdom of Corona, and Rapunzel's first instinct is to help the citizens, get them more blankets, house them in the castle. And it feels in character because in general, Rapunzel is all about taking care of other people. If Eugene had come up with this idea, it would be a little bit out of character. Not because he's not a good guy, but because he tends to be quite narcissistic. Looking out for other people is not his first instinct. He cares about them, but it's not the first thing that comes to mind. Because that's just not who he is. He's happy to help, but it's not his first instinct. However, it is for Rapunzel. Her trying to help the kingdom at large isn't just her fulfilling her queen duties. It's an extension of that compassion, empathy, and kindness that we see from her from the beginning of the film to the end of the series. However, when it comes to Charlie, she has this tendency of treating the people around her like crap. And a big reason for that is that she just doesn't consider the feelings of others. We're only 2 seasons in, and the following has happened. Charlie and Angel Dust got into a fight because Charlie was just focused on what she wanted without ever considering what he wanted and how her actions could affect him. Vaggie and Charlie got into a fight. This time, it was about how Vaggie was hiding the fact that she was an exorcist. And throughout this fight, Charlie didn't once consider why Vaggie chose to hide the fact that she's an angel. I know at some point Rosie helped Charlie see Vaggie's perspective, but firstly, if you're getting relationship advice from the woman who's talking about eating her husband, you're probably better off single. Secondly, Charlie keeps having to learn this lesson. In season 2, Charlie and Vaggie fight again, this time about the fact that Vaggie was trying to help Charlie by having Lucifer try to intimidate Vox and get him to stop his hate campaign. And Charlie just never took a moment to consider things from Vaggie's perspective and try to understand why she did what she did. And even when she apologizes, the focus is on the fact that Charlie wasn't listening to her about Vox. Not on the fact that Charlie blew up at her and Lucifer when all they were trying to do is help. And then again in season 2, despite all of his protests, Charlie violates Angel's boundaries and tries to force him to reveal his sin, when he's not ready to do so, especially in front of Vox and Velvet. Charlie just never considers the feelings of the people around her. Even on a much larger scale, she never actually considers the feelings of the sinners. They've lost thousands of friends and family members as a result of these exterminations. And now they have a chance to fight back, and instead of trying to hear them out, trying to meet them halfway, or trying to understand how they're feeling, Charlie just shows up and is like, let's just stop fighting heaven and get redeemed, people, without actually considering that these people might have a bone to pick with heaven. And yet we're supposed to believe that she's doing it all for the sinners? And I would love to say that I believe that at some point things will change and Charlie will become better, but I can't. Because firstly, Charlie has already learned this lesson and her behavior hasn't changed. And secondly, she's just too narcissistic and lacks the ability to consider the feelings of others. Getting outside of herself, taking a look at the people around her, what they're saying and what they want, is just not something that she seems capable of doing. While Emily, on the other hand, basically lives to help the people around her. And I don't just mean that she's the seraphim who is supposed to keep the people of heaven happy and joyful. I mean that her behavior and actions are completely aligned with the idea that she just wants what's best for people and wants them to be happy. And not just in the broader context of wanting sinners to get redeemed. Even on an individual level, she tries her best to consider the feelings of others and be understanding. Like when Penchas got to heaven, she did everything she could to cheer him up and have him enjoy being in heaven. But as soon as she realizes that what she's doing isn't working and that Penchas misses his friends and his eggs, she switches tactics. Instead of trying to get him to enjoy heaven her way, she focuses on what he wants and tries to give him that by creating a heaven version of those eggs for him to spend time with. She was doing everything she could to help him and was making sure to prioritize his feelings while doing so. Fundamentally, Emily cares about other people in a way that Charlie just doesn't. And this difference is why I don't fault Emily too much for the gift baskets. Because even though they were a bad idea, Emily did try to consider the feelings of the sinners. She was the only one who thought to invite somebody from hell while they're discussing how to communicate with hell. It's not her fault that Penchas was the only hell expert she had available. I'm willing to bet that if you had somebody like Vaggie or Angel up there, people who've actually lived in hell and seen how awful sinners can be, those two would have told her that the gift baskets were a bad idea and Emily would have chosen to do something else. And even if I were to fault Emily, learning how to negotiate and understanding how something like gift baskets could be insensitive is a pretty solid arc for a character like Emily. She's an upbeat person who's always smiling and joyful, and she's only ever lived in heaven, so the gift basket thing would make sense to her. So these faults make sense for the character and make her realistically flawed. Whereas Charlie, on the other hand, grew up in hell and knows firsthand how angry hell is and the state that they are currently in. She's seen how they won't be persuaded by the idea of redemption and has never bothered to actually go out and ask what they do want and try to come up with a compromise. With Emily, the gift baskets just make her realistically flawed. With Charlie, they just point to a larger problem with the character, her inability to just consider other people. And the worst thing about comparing Emily and Charlie is that it feels as if the writers actually agree that Emily would be the better protagonist, as if they're planning to do the world's greatest bait and switch and just replace Charlie with Emily. Because in the final episode, they had Emily do something that is only ever done by the protagonist of a show.
Those sinners need help! We need to do something!
In the final episode, as Vox's machine was about to explode and kill half of the pentagram, Emily was the first person to walk up to it and try to stop the machine. Her wing was broken, she had almost no power, could potentially leave if she wanted to, and her back was up against the wall. And yet she looked at that machine and came up with an idea to save everyone, the way that a true, altruistic, compassionate protagonist would. And I know that some people are about to say that, well, Charlie joined as well. No, there's a difference between the first person who stands up to save everyone and somebody else who chooses to join in. The second person is inspired by the first, while that first person is doing it because they believe that's the right thing to do. The framing of this scene places Emily as the one who is willing to sacrifice everything for these sinners, the one who is willing to die for what she believes to be right, as the hero of this moment, not Charlie.
Oh, hello.
Overall, I just think that the show would have been better with a less selfish protagonist, somebody who actually cares about the people around her, not just doing it out of some trauma. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you want to get more of my thoughts on Charlie, be sure to click this video here. Until then, cheers.